Mr. President and Chief, that helps a little bit. So I am assuming that when you say that there's one trained paramedic on the engine, one on the rescue, that there is an additional firefighter someplace together, and so we actually have expanded our capability. And so they're really, based on what you're saying, it could be an added benefit. Because I am very much, I mean, I know what's going on in the Kirtland Addition, and with the growth there, I'm really concerned about making sure that we have enough capacity. And so it wouldn't go to waste, and that is my question. We're not going to waste our money because we would have additional redundancy. And I'm guessing that when we purchase this, it's still 6 months out before we even get the gear. Am I right on that?
Mr. President, Councilor Arnold Jones, we have spare units as well, but when you spec a new unit, typically takes about 9 months before you actually receive the unit. But we have spare units that are available as well. And if that's what you're talking about, the actual apparatus.
I am.
Okay.
I am. And that's what I'm trying to get to, Mr. President and Chief. So we have spare apparatus, and it is sitting idle because we don't have the staff. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
No, Mr. President, Councilor Arnold Jones, every fire department has spare especially bigger municipalities have spare apparatus, so that when the primary unit is out for maintenance or a major repair, they spare into a reserve unit and continue delivering services in that fire protection district.
Okay. All right, so let me ask you one last time. So I am inclined to support this because I think an expansion is good. So what do you lose if we take this action? What hit does the fire department take?
President Lewis, Councilor Arnold Jones, do you mean hit as far as in staffing or?
Staffing, money.
If we implement it?
Able to achieve our goals.
So if you implement it, it's just we have to have the paramedic staffing levels in order to do it effectively without overtime. And that's the operational expense associated with this if we tried to implement it like in the next 6 months or so. I really believe that based on projections, again, retirement projections and promotional opportunities that follow those retirements, we're looking at July 15 before I have the staffing available to staff the unit.
Okay, so Mr. President, I'm sorry, so if we ask you to purchase new equipment, that all would kind of happen together, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Yes?
That's correct.
Okay,
Councilor
thank
Jones.
you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Chief, I think I don't know that I'm going to ask you a question. I think we're wrapping this up, but I think one of the things we need to agree upon here, or I hope we agree upon, is yes, we'd love to have this unit in every station that doesn't have a unit. We'd like to have it staffed. We'd like to have the money to staff it. But if I'm looking at this, one of the things that concerns me is that we, a council who aren't experts in fire department business, running it, training, making things work, are attempting to push onto the fire department our idea of what we should have, when in fact it's my understanding that you already have the plan in place, and what we're trying to do is force you to buy equipment that you're going to need eventually, but not necessarily right now. And even more importantly, we are in that case putting the department in a situation where we will have to staff on an overtime basis on a budget where we haven't given you have not planned for that kind of money for overtime staffing. And if I may, then I think if we as a council are going to be prudent and we're going to insist on funding this and making this happen, that we probably need to go back and figure out where are we going to get the $636,000 to staff this that we're now leaving dangling out there if we pass this piece of legislation. It's not just a matter of a unit, you know, like build it and it will appear, or will, you know, kind of like the baseball thing. Thank you, Councilor Gardino, you know what I'm talking about. So I can make him smile sometimes. I think we better think very prudently about what we're doing here and not just jump into an it feels good and they need no one is saying that they don't need, that Kirtland doesn't need more help here with this, but let's be careful how we do it and not try to think that we are demigods and can say that it should happen and it'll be right. Thank you.
Mr. President, Councilor Jones, I just want to reiterate the numbers that I provided you were straight time. It's not overtime.
Okay, Councilor Sanchez is next, then Councilor Benton.
Thank you, Mr. President. This isn't about being prudent, and this is not about politics. This is about people. And I think that these people in this community, and as Ms. Atkinson made the statement earlier, this area is really growing and developing. We've got the pit, we've got Lobo Village, we've got additional development going on, we've got the University Football Stadium, and I know they have paramedics there at the games, but to accommodate 35,000 people, I don't believe they have enough help. And I just feel it's time that this station gets a rescue unit. It'll not only benefit the area, it'll benefit the entire city, because many of the residents of our community attend venues at the pit, Isotopes Park, the arena, and we should have protection for those individuals. But I think Ms. Atkins hit it right on the nail. This area is continuing to grow, and we need to be prepared for the future. Again, it's not about politics, it's about people.
Councilor Benton, I think we still have an amendment to move also, don't we?
Yeah, I'd like to go ahead and vote on the amendment, but I guess speaking of the amendment, I wanted to ask Ms. Lewick and Mr. Zaman about the question of the coverage between now and the time that the next graduating class comes in.
Well, President Lewis, Councilor Benton, councilors, there was no direct amendment covering the cost of the staffing based on the amount of funding that the chief gave us, that the personnel costs would be. He gave us on an annual. We did a 6-month. The personnel cost would be roughly $260,000. If you factor in the overtime factor, time and a half, for a 6-month period beginning January 1, the total cost of the staffing would be $389,000. So it is 6 months of backfill or overtime, but that was within the original $400,000 estimated for 6 months cost of staffing. Where the big change was in the cost of purchasing equipment.
Right, and this certainly isn't something that we've just suddenly pulled out of the air and willed. In fact, I informed the chief about this intention way back earlier this year, and again, I point out the reversions over the last 10 years, averaging $563,000. So I think we can make this work. But
The motion and a second for the Amendment 1 to this bill. Other questions or discussion on the amendment? Clarification on the amendment. Councilor Benton, if you want to read the title again and summary.
It's in your bill books, but I guess if...
President Lewis, councilors, the amendment reads on page 2, line 5, delete $180,000 and suit in lieu thereof $269,000. And this $269,000 would be the cost for the apparatus as well as equipment associated within the rescue unit, such as computers, mobile data terminal, radios, and other equipment, gurneys, that type of stuff.
Okay. The motion is second for do pass or for Amendment 1. Those in favor say yes. Yes. Those opposed, no. Amendment 1 passes and back on the bill. Councilor Benton, we do have Councilor Winter or Councilor Garduno, then Councilor Winter to speak. Go to them, Councilor Garduno. Okay, Councilor Winter.
Thank you, Mr. President. Chief, one more question. So what are the other rescue are the other stations that don't have a rescue units? What are the 3 stations that don't have rescue at this time?
Mr. President, Councilor Winter, there are fire stations 2, 4, and 10.
And what district are they in? What representative represents that district?
I believe they're all in Councilor Benton's district. Not by design, it's the best strategic location for existing resources right now.
So on your long-range plans, those 3 stations, what was the plan to get them rescue units? I mean, who was supposed to be next?